What's happening, guys? I hope you're all doing well. Today is a very special day, and I'm really excited because I have a guest on the channel, and that is none other than Mr. Adam Kelly, aka your friendly masked guitar player, Blackacre Doe, as he likes to introduce himself on that channel. And Adam is a fellow YouTuber, content creator, guitar teacher, guitar player. Adam also plays guitar in the band Convent, based out of Pennsylvania, US. The band have just released their second single, Where Her Heart Was. And then the first single was released a few months ago now, which was Dirt Doesn't Need Luck, if I'm correct there. So you guys should 100% go and check out Adam's band. If you like drop A riffs and shouting and stuff like that. A bit like my band, if you dig that sort of stuff,
Yes.
it's incredible music. It was probably one of the first things last year that really caught my attention, that was new and actually felt fresh. But later I want to get into Convent a little bit, but for now, Adam, how are you doing?
Yes. Doing great, Chaz. Thank you for having me on. It's nice to finally meet you. Been internet friends for a while, but it's nice to
Mhm.
finally be able to talk face to face throughout the internet. And I guess you're 6 hours ahead of me, so different time zones, but here we are.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of where this all sort of started, I found Adam's YouTube channel just looking at Slipknot covers and Slipknot guitar lessons. And the moment I started watching Adam's content, I noticed very quickly with his teaching approach that we're very much two sides of the same coin. I like to
Yeah.
think it's just like Adam does the Slipknot thing incredibly well, and then I do the Bullet for My Valentine thing as best as I can do it.
Incredibly well, I'll say it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just like just watching Adam's videos and stuff like that. We're sort of at the same level. Adam's a little bit ahead of me in terms of subscribers and stuff like that, but the content is very similar. And I found that, like I said, Adam's approaches are very similar to mine. So I wanted to have him on today. And he is here now with us, and I will start talking to you properly in a minute. So keep referring. But
Okay.
yeah, that's probably the thing that I'm most excited about, really, to talk about. Is we're very much two sides of the same coin when it comes to approaches to music and guitar.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted to start all the way back at the beginning with you, if I could,
Sure.
and just talk about your introduction to music and your earliest memory of it, because that's where it all started, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, definitely want to give a shout out to my dad. He was definitely like my first guitar hero as a kid. He's the first person I saw like play live. I was probably, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 or so, and getting to see him play live. He always had guitars around the house, and he raised me on like Leonard Skinner and the Beatles, Jackson 5, Tom Petty, like a lot of that type of stuff. And he's a big prog guy, like British prog, like Jethro Tull and Yes and Genesis and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
all of that stuff was really important to me as a kid. And then I think around the time, around fifth grade, I really got into Green Day.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like my first band that I liked that wasn't like my parents' music. But yeah, my dad started teaching me when I was around 13, I think. And then at that age, like, I was like too cool to like learn from my dad, like, as an angsty boy does. And I'm like, I want to learn like Metallica. Because my friend down the street, his dad was a big like 80s metal guy, and he showed us the like a live video of Slayer. I can't remember what song it was. It was probably Raining Blood, and I was just like really scared. I was like, "What the hell?" Like, I was like, "This isn't like Southern rock or like classic rock. Like, I don't know what this is."
Mm-hmm.
Very like to me like violent sounding, and just I'd never heard anything like it. And then his son, my buddy, got me into like the softer Metallica stuff, like Black Album and a little bit of Load and Reload and Saint Anger, which is funny to say now because like if I were to take anyone through a Metallica journey, I would not do that. But like he knew that the heavier stuff kind of intimidated me. Um, and then yeah, my first band was actually I would play a jazz band in school. because I just wanted to join a band so badly. So I definitely have a lot of different like influences. And then of course, I found Slipknot. My best friend John, he showed them to me when I was like 14. I think he showed me the like animated video for Wait and Bleed, which has like the mix of the song where Corey's like sung vocals are higher.
Yeah, yeah.
So to me, that was like, oh, okay, I can get down with this. It's like kind of scary, but like there's a lot of melody in here. So, and then that just went, you know how it goes. You just keep
Snowballs.
going heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. So yeah, but the earliest stuff is all like classic rock and prog rock and stuff and southern rock. But yeah, definitely, it's all kind of comes back to my dad on that. And been going to shows since I was a little kid. My first show was if you want to call it that, was Beatlemania, which was like a Beatles tribute band when I was like 10, and that was like the coolest thing ever. So just kind of all snowballed from there. But how about you? I want to hear yours too.
Yeah, it's well, not the same, but there's kind of like a misconception, maybe more with the extreme with you because you certainly took on the whole the image side of it as well with what you did with
Yeah.
your channel. However, you and I have both got the same thing going on, like like the long hair, I look like I listen to heavy metal. When you're running around the room in front of the camera,
Yeah.
banging your head with your jazz master and your mask on, it's like
Yeah.
yeah, okay, and like you said, scary, right? And there's always that
Yeah.
misconception. It's just like, oh, they're the metal guys, that's what they've done and what they've always done, But it's like, no, no,
Yeah.
no, you know. My first memory of music is like, yeah, going back to when I was a kid, like ABBA,
Okay. Yeah.
and it's
Fire.
so funny, like between that and my nan had because my nan brought me up, as a lot of people know, and nan had like this LP collection,
Mhm.
and I found like this record, and it was Enya,
Okay.
right? And I would listen to just being a kid, like playing with my Jenga blocks or whatever it was,
Mhm.
and I would sit listening to it, and I just remember thinking like, it sounds really sad. There was just
Yeah.
something that wrote me in, and then years later, I realized the reason why I probably liked it is it was a lot of like vocal harmonies and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Like I'm a huge Devin Townsend fan,
Okay.
and Devin Townsend has like kind of like he's always said his music is like a mix between Black Album, Metallica, and Enya. A
Okay.
bit of prog thrown in there, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what when I discovered Devin, it was
Mhm.
like vocal harmonies and stuff like that and layers, and it was that I was hearing. So obviously that found its way into me when I was young, and then like moving forward, that's like my earliest memory.
Yeah.
And then even with ABBA, you know what I mean? Like those guys, there's four of them. They were all singing, and the harmonies and stuff like that would sort of like go over each other. I'm trying to find a good word for that, but you know what I mean? They'd all sort of like entwine. And I think it was that I liked as
Yeah.
a kid. And then going forward from that, I think it probably will have been, because I always liked music, but I just didn't know what I liked. So when
Mhm.
I started, my nan got me my first guitar and paid for my lessons. And I was kind of learning the stuff that you would learn, Back in Black, Smoke on the Water, and even had those songs on, get my friends to, Bluetooth them over to my Sony Ericsson phone at the time, whatever it was,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. And I knew I wanted to play guitar. I knew it was my thing because I didn't like sports. I didn't like all the stuff that other kids liked, but it wasn't the music just, it was okay. But
Yeah.
and then I was at a distant relative's house, and it's when YouTube was becoming a thing. And we all know where I'm going with this, but I heard the most crushing guitar sound I'd ever heard, wall of sound, and it was Sad But True by Metallica.
Yeah.
And I went, what is that? And he was like, oh, it's Metallica. I was like, right.
Yeah.
So I went back to my guitar lessons, and my guitar teacher was like, what do you want to do? I was like, have you heard of Metallica? He's like, vaguely. And I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And then
Yeah.
that sort of led me down that rabbit hole then. So we didn't have the internet growing up, which is what I want to talk to you about as well.
Mhm.
You might have, but like, the whole idea of we had to, information wasn't so readily available on the internet at that time, like guitar
Absolutely.
lessons and stuff like that. So, you either
Yeah.
had to get a teacher or you just use your ear, which we'll talk about.
Mhm.
But then it was just like going into school, trying to find websites, that you could download MP3s on. Don't tell
Oh
anybody
yeah.
which sites you're using because then if everybody's using them, the IT guys would like block them,
Right,
and I
right.
just spend it like, Googling Ride the Lightning. And
Are you
it
doing,
basically was Metallica for me at that point.
yeah. You were doing that at school? You were downloading it at school? Sorry, can I
Yeah.
curse? I, I forgot to, I don't want to get you demonetized.
It's
I
fine.
won't.
But yeah, yeah. So like, I was adamant. I was like, but I just needed it. You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
was, as soon as I found that, it was like, this is me.
yeah.
So I don't know how I found those sites, but when you're like 20 pages back on Google, and it's like, oh, I
Oh,
want
yeah.
this one.
That's the best
You
feeling,
know what I
man.
mean?
Yeah, that was the best. Yeah. Did you ever use LimeWire? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Only at like people's houses that I could go to.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah.
Who had the internet.
Yeah.
And I remember downloading the because obviously with Metallica, I liked all of it,
Mhm.
absolutely all of it. And again, growing up without internet, you don't, and especially when you haven't got friends who are listening to that stuff, you don't know
Yeah.
any different. So you don't know about the whole, oh, they changed their style, they cut off their hair, or Lars turned his
Right, right.
snare off, or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter at that age. Yeah.
Exactly. So I remember downloading the Saint Anger album in its entirety off LimeWire, and I remember thinking, "Gosh, this sounds like terrible." But I mean, I know that album is quite notorious for what it is, but it's
Yeah.
like because it was just like on LimeWire, everything was just so like compressed,
Right. Yeah.
and stuff like that. So yeah, I remember.
Yeah. I remember like even before, because they were like my first favorite band. Like it was them and then Bullet, which we'll get into, and then
Hmm.
Slipknot, Faith No More a little bit, and then back to Slipknot. But like it was one of those things where before my first new album for them was Death Magnetic.
Hmm.
So like I remember before that came out, I was like trying to I thought I was getting leaks off of LimeWire of like, oh, this is a new Metallica album. And it was just like I don't even know what it was. It was like acoustic stuff. Like, and I was like, damn, like they went really soft on this album. And then it's like completely not the album at all. So like it's just funny the way that we grew up and like kids, I don't mean to sound like old, but it's just funny, like that's just not a thing anymore. Like everything's just like instantly available. But we had to work for a lot of that stuff to destroy our in my case, I like God bless my dad because like I destroyed my family's computer like multiple times, like downloading this stuff. Just the viruses on that thing is just insane. But he made it out. But yeah, it was good times, good times. Discovering music. I mean,
Absolutely.
I still feel that way. To me, music's like magic. It sounds
Yeah,
corny, but like
exactly.
it's just
No, it
like
is.
I still love that.
Yeah, it is. It is very much a magic, a
Yeah,
lifeline. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And don't get me wrong, there does, as I've got a little bit older, but especially doing what I do for a living as a guitar teacher, like there does come this point of desensitization
yeah,
because you've heard a lot of the tropes and the formulas and stuff like that. But still, like yesterday, my brain was absolutely fried from
mhm,
getting some new gear that didn't work out, and a long week of work, and I just felt a little bit, depleted. And I
yeah,
remember I was just lying in bed, just scrolling through YouTube as you do before you go to bed or go to
mhm,
sleep even, and clicked on this Metallica video I hadn't seen before, some sort of interview, and it was just like switching off watching it, and I was like, my God, I just stopped for a second. I thought, like, wow, how many years has it been? And your comfort blanket is
yeah.
still that band.
Oh
Like
yeah,
you are 32 years of age. This whole
mhm,
thing started when I was 14.
yeah,
And it's like that band are still with you and still providing a source of escape for you.
yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
So to still have that and for you to still have that, it's
Mhm.
yeah, music is magic, like you said.
Yeah, it always takes me back too, and it makes me sad. Like I don't know if you've experienced this too with like friends of yours, but I know like my one of my best friends, like him and I grew up. He was my only friend growing up, and I'm lucky to have him because I had someone to share it with. But we would like be playing basketball outside and like listening to like 101 Proof, like the live Pantera record, and like the neighbors would be like, "What the hell are these kids doing?" They're like 13, listening to this insane music and stuff, and it's just like him and I still go to shows together, but like I had other friends during that time that they're like, oh yeah, like I used to listen to that when I was like a kid, and I don't listen to that now, and I listen to this and that, and it's just like I don't know, it is what it is. Like it's none of my business, but I just it kind of makes me sad because to me it's still so important to me. I mean, I'm rocking the the Poison shirt for you on and for me too because we're both seeing this tour. But like
Mhm.
that album means so much to me. Like I get chills
Yeah.
just thinking about it, and it's still like you said. I mean, that came out 20 years ago. I probably didn't discover them until '06 because I think they were on the Madden '06 soundtrack. And someone can correct me in the comments, but I forget what year they were on. But I found them relatively new, like when they had gotten signed and stuff. But yeah, it just I'm glad that we have that because I don't think that's something a lot of people understand. Like I'll be at family
Mm.
stuff and they'll be like, "Are you still playing guitar?" I'm like, "Am I still playing guitar?" It's like I I wouldn't be the same person. It's like part of my identity. So
Yeah.
I think it's just something that that people outside of it might not really understand, but I think
Yeah.
it's super special for sure. And it's like I grew up playing, like you were saying, sports. Like I grew up playing sports, but it got to a point where I'm like, I don't know, everyone you can like I feel like everyone comes up playing like soccer or baseball, or at least it is in America. I don't know if it's different in
Hmm.
England,
Hmm.
but like um I was like, as I got older, I was like, there's a lot less people playing guitar than there are throwing a baseball around or whatever. So I'm like, let me choose
Hmm.
this path type of thing. And I don't know. That's always sports has its own like camaraderie, but for me, music has given me more than anything else in my life. I think it's just even just like the way I conduct myself or like the confidence
Hmm.
I've gotten from playing on stage or whatever
Yeah.
it is, like
Yeah.
translates to other parts of my life. So I think it's something that anyone who's young and watching this interview, like, we're both testament to the fact that like if you learn your instrument and you take it seriously and are nice to people, like you'll have at the very least you'll have a very fun hobby for the rest of your life. Like,
Yeah.
and who knows, it could be more than that. Some people watching this right now will probably end up in touring bands or whatever it is. But yeah, it's a very special thing, I think.
Hmm. I totally agree about the lifestyle thing.
Hmm.
It gave me a sense, especially as a young kid, in a world where everybody had their thing, and I tried the clubs even since like little school, but
Hmm.
before moving into high school. But every kid had their thing, and I remember like there's that horrible transition point coming out of like preschool into high school,
Hmm.
where you're not young enough to be doing the stuff that you were doing as a kid, but you're not quite old enough to be interested in whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I had quite a sheltered upbringing with my nan. Grew up in a very religious household, so
Hmm.
there was certain things that were big no-nos. Do you know what I mean? Like heavy music as well. I had to sneak that
Yeah.
into the house. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean? I was lucky to borrow some albums,
Hmm.
off of people, and I'd sneak them in my bag and burn them onto my computer and then take the CD back or whatever. And
Yeah.
and I suppose that going back to the Metallica thing, it's probably why I related so much to James Hetfield. Not only have you found this band that is giving you the voice that you didn't have,
Hmm.
but the frontman's upbringing is like so similar to yours. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I remember. I think going back on the bus after like my first week of high school, and there was this kid sat next to me. He was like, who was in the same form of as me. He was like, "Did you play for any clubs or anything?" I'm like, "What? No. What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, I play football with this, and I play." So, do you like any sports? No, no, kind of thing. Well, then
Yeah.
I say, "Oh, I like." Because bear in mind, it's something that transition points was like, I like Star Wars, and I like
Yeah.
Lego and Spider Man and stuff. And oh my God, the biggest regret of my life, because the next day I went in and him and all his friends, he said, "Oh, this weirdo on the bus has just told me he likes,
Yeah.
like stuff, this sort of stuff, nerdy stuff, whatever it was." And they were all like absolutely taking the rip out of me and like really mean, like bullies.
Yeah.
And so and then obviously it's like, okay, it's not cool to like that, so you try all the other stuff, sports and stuff, and it just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
But then you find me when I finally found music, it was like, there it
There you go.
is. I thought it
Yeah.
was me. It's just like,
Yeah.
and yeah, and like you said, like the way you hold yourself.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? That sort of like confidence,
Yeah.
and that came through in your videos as well.
Oh, thank you.
As soon as you've got that, well, whatever guitar you've picked around
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
neck and stuff, it's just like
Yeah.
it's like something else is on, and we see it with the guys we like, take a gym route or whatever, who's the most sort
Mm.
of like, laid back sort of guy,
Yeah.
you know. But as soon as the mask goes on and the tally goes around his neck, it's like
Mm.
this
It's
different
on.
person with
Yeah.
his confidence, So
Yeah.
yeah, I can
For sure.
relate.
Yeah. I'm sure you can relate too on the fact that it's like, it's, I don't want to say a performance thing because it's not like I'm like a different person, but it's just, I don't know. It just feels like a guitar is just like an extension of me. And it's just, that's how
Yeah.
I've always like, expressed myself. And, I don't, drink or do drugs or anything. So like that was always like my outlet of like,
Hmm.
it still is with Convent. Like I just get all my kind of negative emotions out and,
Uh-huh.
um, I don't know. It's kind of like a therapeutic thing for me.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just and it's the weird thing too is like I don't know if people comment on your videos that like, oh, your right hand looks like James or like or whoever or like Matt or whoever. But it is funny where it's like we probably have both like watched so much footage of these guys that like it just kind of becomes like
Yeah.
almost like
Yeah.
a not emulating them because I don't think you in your band or the way you play like I'm sure you found your own techniques and stuff, but obviously I get, the gym thing a lot because I cover his
Hmm.
parts, but it is funny. Like as a kid, like that's what I would do for my favorite, like baseball players. Like I would mimic their stances. And it's just funny how
Yeah.
that transitions into like, oh, I'm watching, I'm looking at the video, like you were saying, having this was before we started recording, but Jazz was telling me about having multiple videos up to take pieces of and like for instructional stuff for gear, but we do the same thing for live videos and like, oh, is that on the fifth string or the sixth string and like
Yeah.
whatever it
Yeah.
is. So
Yeah.
it's just a lot of that stuff.
So I wanted to ask as well, what was the clicking point for you with guitar? We talk about it becoming an extension of ourselves, a confidence booster, a lifeline and whatever it is. But was it an immediate sort of match when you first picked it up and you first started taking lessons or whatever it was? Or did you have to, because like for me, I said, I knew I wanted to do it, but I just didn't know what. Or,
Yeah.
did you pick it up and you just knew straight away or?
So the clicking point for me was the first show I played, I think, which I was definitely too young to like like I had no business having that confidence of like, oh yeah, my band's playing a show. Like it was our eighth grade, like I just turned like 14
Hmm.
and we had like the last dance at our school of the year. And, I had this little band and we played a 4-song set. And like, it was like the coolest thing in my life at that point. Like, it was funny, like, no one had, I was a very quiet kid. I was super, super shy. And I played that and I had, people and especially at the time, I had no like, uh, you know, skills with the ladies. So like girls were coming up to me after the thing. I'm like, you never wanted to talk to me before, but now all of a sudden I have a guitar in my hands and now I'm cool. So that was
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, like people reacted really well to this. Like I think for 14-year-olds, we had some cool songs. And that was kind of the point where I was like, okay, I think it kind of came full circle where like at that point I'd only been playing for like a year, but I was like, I spent all this time in my room and now I played in front of people. And then I got linked up with my guitar teacher who I took lessons from for like 3 or 4 years. And that was like by far the best. I mean, anytime anyone messages me about that stuff, I'm like, just get a guitar teacher like that
Yeah.
understands
Hmm.
you and your goals and your plans and everything. Cause that's what he was to me. He's like 80s shred guy. Like I think he took lessons from like do you know Richie Kotzen, shredder guy? Okay. He plays in Winery Dogs too. He played in Poison, like whatever. He's like an insane guitar player. He's from like our area originally. And anyway, super great guy. Shout out Eric. He was by far the most important part of my learning. So that show combined with getting into the lessons with someone who actually like cared about what I wanted to do and nurtured that. And, we got into like I learned Eye of the Storm, like the pad solo, like the sweep picking. I was like, holy
Yeah.
shit, like stuff like that. But I'd say those two things, like the show and then getting linked up with like a guitar teacher that is on the same page, those were like the biggest kind of boosts of like, okay, this is like for me and I can keep growing on this and keep learning and stuff. But yeah.
So I had a teacher as well.
Mhm.
And he taught me well. To be fair, he was better than a lot of the other guitar teachers were out there, and he'd been and done the thing in the '80s as well.
Yeah.
And he was, mates with like Steve Harris at one point from Maiden, and
Oh shit. Yeah.
yeah, stuff like that. So he'd been, around the block a little bit. So he taught me well, and then after that, when you get older and you stop having lessons, the rest of it has literally been like sort of self-made, I guess, just
Yeah.
like figuring it out. And I wanted to talk to you now as well. It's naturally come onto this
Mhm.
about the struggle of our era in a world with no, I say no internet, but like where,
Yeah.
there was obviously internet, but information was not so readily available. You
Yeah.
couldn't go online and type in, you know, duality guitar lesson and Mr. Blackacre Doe comes up, or,
Yeah.
at the end by For My Valentine and maybe I come up, or whoever it is. Do you know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
you know, I feel like this generation of young guitar players, and when I say young, I don't necessarily mean in age. I mean
Mhm.
in, just at the, beginners. It's a blessing and a curse in a lot of ways
Yeah.
because information is so readily available. You can go on, unfortunately, there's guys like ourselves who have put a shit ton of time into trying to be as accurate as possible and doing lessons and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But in a way, it is kind of handed to you. And, for us growing up, I mean, like, I remember even going to my guitar teacher, asking him to show me little bits and bobs of songs. And, he might not always get it right. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then you go on ultimateguitar.com at the time, and those tabs
Yeah.
are uploaded by just average Joes like you and
Yeah.
myself. Do you know what I mean? Somebody
Mhm.
got bored one afternoon and just decided to, just make a tab for Enter Sandman or whatever it was. And that's their
Right.
interpretation.
Yeah.
And I feel like that struggle because, I would go into school again and print off, much to the teacher's distaste,
Yeah.
20 pages of tab, you know what I
Right.
mean? And, for whatever it was. And her voice resides, and I get it home and
Yeah.
it would be wrong.
Very wrong. Yeah.
So I've waited all day to get this 20 page, document home. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, what are you left with?
Yeah.
You have got to use your ear. You've got to find ways to learn it.
Mhm.
So, you watch live performances, what limited live performances there were on YouTube,
Right.
and where the
Yeah.
camera isn't, somebody in the audience going like that, right? Because
Yeah.
they're getting
Yeah.
all knocked around, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you are forced to watch and study your
Mhm.
artists. And
Yeah.
when people say to me, have you got it that close or whatever, and it's like I'm taking on the persona of that artist,
Yeah.
and I'm channeling it almost like an impression of somebody
Right.
because I've watched how they approach it. And it
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to play like that exclusively for myself, but when I'm doing something in that vein, like little things like angling the pick forward for like Metallica stuff, if you're doing that to get that
Sure.
Hetfield bite into the
Mhm.
string, do you know what I mean? Dialing back your gain, simple things like that.
Yeah.
So you and I were really brought up, or grew up, I should say, in that
Mhm.
era where you had to do a lot of it yourself. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on the struggle and the
Yeah.
that way of learning.
Yeah, it is funny. That might be like the biggest reason why I started a channel is because I was just thinking of my 14, 15, 16-year-old self and being like, damn, like I wish there was me. That sounds like, egotistical, but I wish there was someone doing what we're
Yeah,
doing back then.
yeah,
So I'm just basically trying to, pay it forward a little bit to these kids that, are coming up and getting into, heavy music,
hmm
and loving it as much as we did and do. So yeah, it is funny because like when I started, like I remember the first time I tuned my, first big boy guitar, which was like a Epiphone Les Paul Standard. I wish that's one of the only guitars I wish I hadn't sold, but I tuned it down to, drop B on,
hmm
10 to 46 because I didn't know, and it was insane. I'm like, this is like spaghetti string. And
yeah,
my
yeah.
ear wasn't good enough yet to understand like I couldn't hear the fact that, oh, like these tabs are wrong. I was like,
hmm
I was probably 14, or it was probably around that time I played my first show, and I was just getting into Slipknot and I wanted to learn some of this stuff. And I would just take on the internet, like you're saying, and just like, oh, that's a tab on Ultimate Guitar. Surely that's right. Like we just didn't
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
And there's probably tab books out there, but I didn't think to like try to order that or whatever. And even those are wrong. I mean, I have a video on how bad that tab book is and shit. And
Oh boy.
like we both know all about that. But like it was just a different time. And I think doing that and then revisiting them when the point five DVD came out, that
Hmm.
was what got me. I'm like, you know what? I don't care if I get 100 subscribers. Like, I'm just gonna cover this whole album. I'm gonna now. I'm still working on teaching the whole album, but I was like, I'm gonna cover it note for note because he's showing it right there. And even
Yeah.
then, you can't do that because with him, it's all
Yeah. It's
improv
all, yeah,
solos.
on the spot.
But
Yeah.
I did it. I try to do it note for note what he shows in the DVD.
Yeah.
So yeah, but growing up, it was like crazy. Where the funny thing is that hasn't changed. Like kids thinking the tabs are right has not changed. Like they're doing it on a different site. Everyone uses
Songster.
Songster.
Yeah.
But like it's so funny to me. Like kids will. It's. I'm not like making fun of anyone because I would have done the same thing if I was
Yeah. Yeah.
14
Yeah.
again. But
Yeah.
it's like they'll message me and they're like, man, like this isn't right. Like it's on Songster, and I'm like, we have to understand it's just some random person like uploading that. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that it's right or not. And they're like, well, why don't you upload the tabs? And I'm like, I'm trying to, for me, it's like I want these kids to use their ear because then they might
Yeah.
not need me. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's the whole goal is like I want to be like a source of I don't know, not inspiration, but like a resource to, oh, like I can't tell what this part is. Let me look at this guy's lesson or something. And then eventually your ear will be good enough to not even need
Hmm.
my videos or whatever. But yeah, it is funny. And I feel like we're at a time where the kids who are really, or I shouldn't say kids, anyone learning, um, the fact that they do have all these resources, it's like the best and worst time I feel like to be learning guitar because that's the thing is there's endless amount of information, but it's like
Yeah.
you kind of have to pick what path you want to go down because it is kind
Yeah.
of like sensory overload at some point.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it was definitely. I feel like we came up in a fun time because it was like it had its struggle too, but I feel like there wasn't as much noise. Like you go on YouTube and it was like you could watch some like bullet like I don't know like Download Festival '09 or like whatever. Like there was a
Hmm.
couple things, but it wasn't like every single show ever. So it was just a lot of research and a lot of training. I don't even remember. Like, do you even remember learning by ear? Like, I feel like it just kind of naturally happened. Like, I don't remember sitting down and being like, "Oh, let me train
No.
my ear." It just like happened because how bad the tabs are.
First and foremost, I speak to my audience here. Is any of this sounding familiar to you? It's like this is why I wanted to have you on because as soon as I discovered your lessons on YouTube, I was like, oh, this guy does what I do, and it's my
Mhm.
approach, and it made
Yeah,
sense to me. And you know, that whole you know teaching people to watch, teaching people to listen. When I'm teaching people, my clients, in my day job, I say to them, the biggest gift that I can impart to you is to be able to watch and listen. Never
Mhm.
mind the tab. That is not going to tell you where to shake a note.
Yeah,
It's not. It might have a little squiggle next to the number or something like that, but
sure.
it's not going to give you the nuance in the playing. And then there's the other side of it, whereas if you are numerically screwed like I am, call it like dyscalculia, numerical dyslexia, whatever it's called.
Oh, gotcha.
Like
Yeah, yeah,
tabs, like are a nightmare for
yeah.
me anyway.
Mhm.
So but not everybody has that. But still, so I was like ultra forced
Right.
into watching because sometimes it turned out that I'd be reading the tab the wrong way sometimes. So I know I'd say, oh, the
Mhm.
tab would be wrong, and a lot of the times they were, but sometimes like the tabs would fail me because of the numbers thing. And what grieves me most is when I get a comment, and anybody who leaves a comment, I appreciate you, I really do. But honestly, if I get, it's not so much a comment, it's not so much on my YouTube channel, but every now and then, like on TikTok, which I don't put a whole lot of time into, I'll just get like tabs question mark,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's like
Classic.
that's not even a considered question. It's just like,
Yeah.
what do I use them? Do you want them? No. Do I have them? Do you know what I mean? It's like, why don't
Yeah.
you, and like I said, this isn't me getting at anybody, but when we were younger,
Yeah.
it's two boomers right now, but like back in our day, but it's just like, okay, I was just forced to watch. And yeah, to answer your question, I don't remember. So basically, what happened is I discovered that my guitar teacher had this mystical ability where I gave him a CD, he'd listen to it, and he'd be able to play it.
Right.
He just had the ear for it, right? And I remember
Mm.
him, and so it became like a jukebox. Then it's like next
Yeah.
week is Master of Puppets, next week is. And I remember he turned around to me one day and said, like, "Don't you want to do this for yourself?"
Mm.
And I said, "Well, don't you need some sort of like degree or something like that, some
Yeah.
sort of
Right.
training?" He was like, "No." And he literally played like the first two notes of Happy Birthday. He went da da
Mm.
da 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 da. Well, not the first two notes, but da 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 da. He said, find
Mm.
those next two notes.
Mm.
And I found
Yeah.
them, and he goes, there you go. He says, that's how you do it. Just hear in your head what comes next. And
Yeah.
also watch where I'm playing. If I'm playing this very simple little tune, that's down at like the fifth fret or whatever, like the next two notes aren't going to be, all the way up at, the
Right.
22nd fret on the
Yeah.
E string. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's just like use
Yeah.
common sense, watch and listen. And, a lot of people have it and they don't know they have
Yeah.
it. Like, for instance, so many people know when somebody's singing out of key.
Mm.
People
Yeah.
watch American Idol and X Factor or whatever it is, if that's still a thing, those shows, and people go on and they're, you know, terrible singers, and the producers have put them on because they think it's funny. But the nation is watching and they're all thinking, oh gosh, that's out of key. It's like, see,
Yeah.
everybody knows when something's out of key. Everybody has
Yeah.
that sort of instinct, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just remember that little session to answer your question when he said that.
Yeah.
And then that gave me the confidence then to like go forth. And then obviously when you're learning like metal, which was
Mm.
the thing that I was doing at the time, the more songs you learn, it's like, oh, it's these chords again. Oh, it's that position on the neck again. Oh,
Yeah.
it's so you're just recycling stuff from other songs at that point as well. So there's a little bit of that
Yeah.
as well,
Yeah.
learning what the
Absolutely.
artist likes, what they like to use, and it's like, oh, that's the bullet chord, the big fat thing, that they
Yeah. Yeah.
blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh no, I was gonna say like it is funny the repeating thing because I feel like when we were kids it's like damn like I don't know how they're doing this stuff and then now it's like I've learned so at this point I think I'm like 4.5 albums into the Slipknot stuff and it's like everyone has their thing like their licks or the stuff that like when you sit down and play guitar it's like that's what you're drawn to and it's kind of funny. It almost kind of takes away some of it kind of pulls the curtain back. It's like, oh yeah, these are guys just like making music. Like, of course, like it's the best music, but like it's still at the end of the day, we're all just playing with the same 12 notes. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, exactly.
um, so it's just, I think that's super helpful. And to anyone like, um, thinking about like, I feel like if you want to talk about theory at all, like I personally think I encourage people to learn theory, especially with metal, because
Yeah.
I know I have some people who, um, might only like I've had some viewers kind of say like that I taught them guitar or whatever, and they only know like this stuff, which is super flattering. But if I could have any advice or impart any advice to anyone watching, it's like I would recommend like starting in E standard, like
Mhm.
learning some simple stuff, learning theory from E standard, and then going like, okay, do I like drop D? Do I like drop C?
Yeah.
Because for me, it was like bullet with like D. I was like, what the hell is D standard? Like what? So like I feel like you kind of have to crawl before you walk. And that's another
Yeah.
thing I feel like is difficult because these kids see like, some kid popping out of the womb playing like the Crazy Train solo. And it's like, no, you like they, worked hard to get there. They might be super young, but like you gotta I'm kind of that definitely sounds boomer of me, but I really believe like you gotta start at square one and learn your open
Yeah.
chords,
Yeah.
learn bar chords, like whatever.
Yeah.
Because I feel like playing in bands, like people can sniff out if you don't know your stuff. So
Yeah.
especially with writing songs, like I think it helps a lot. But
It
that's
does.
my 2 cents. But yeah,
You are spot on that. I what people need to understand is, they get one side of me when I'm doing the YouTube stuff, and for you as well.
Mhm.
And I do not consider myself to be, some sort of great guitar player or anything like that. It's just something I can do at this point, and it's what I'm qualified to do to make a living at this point. It's either that or flipping hamburgers. And but like the only reason why I'm efficient at it and I can work these songs out so
Yeah.
quickly and teach it and stuff like that is because I learned my open chords, I learned my scales, I learned my modes, I learned my bar chords, I learned how to do a bar chord properly. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And that stuff at the end of the day, it's I know I'm biased here because I'm a guitar teacher and it's kind of like I have to know it. But that stuff, back in the day when I first started taking guitar, nobody was more mortified to basically find math in
Sure.
guitar than
Yeah.
me. I just, that's not Master of Puppets. Do you know what I mean? And I fled
Yeah.
from it for years, until I saw like one of those Death Magnetic fly on the wall things on YouTube, and James is
Yeah.
going to Kirk, it goes F to G and all that
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
whatever. And I'm like, oh, those
Yeah.
guys know that.
They
Maybe I
know.
should know that kind of thing at
Right.
least. But yeah, it's only going to make you a better guitar player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I encourage everybody to do. And it's so funny. I had a conversation with a client just last week, I think it was. And he's into like Slayer, Metallica, and all the good stuff.
Oh yeah.
And that's what he would like to be able to play. And he came to me for tuition. And it's like, I'm going to teach you open chords kind of thing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm fully aware of what's the thought process that goes through people's heads and stuff. When you show them that, and he said to me, that was a while ago, and he said to me this week, he said, it just dawned on me that if you do not learn your open chords, whether you end up using them or not,
Yeah.
if you do not learn your open chords, one of many few fundamental things, quote unquote, he said, you are screwing yourself. You are absolutely screwing yourself if you don't learn that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I'd agree.
there you
Yeah.
go. And
There
you've
you go.
literally just basically recited the same thing, so
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's something that like, especially as metal guitar players, like I hate to say it, but with metal and with hardcore, like I've met some of the most open-minded, talented people, and I've met some of the most closed-minded, like ignorant people. So I think I try to take this stuff from obviously the people who are super open-minded, but like some metal players, like take like Alex Solnick from Testament, like he has a jazz trio, like it's insane. Like a lot of these guys, they're not listening to nothing but Slayer, like when they're on the road, like they have so many, I feel like you are what you listen to type of thing. Like I was saying, like you are what you eat. Like I feel like the more you listen to and the more guitar players, and even if you get into piano players or saxophone players and learn some of their lines, like it's just going to make you a better guitar player, more well-rounded. There's nothing wrong with, power chords and all that stuff. I love all that stuff. Most of my stuff is based around that, but it really helps if you know how to add harmonies, how to add different chord extensions that other people might not be using. Even like, I still will try to throw in some like jazz voicings or whatever, like minor ninths or sevenths or whatever it is. Like it's just I feel like makes people more of a complete guitar player, and you can
rounded.
play in different types of bands. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with like if you just want to play like in a cover band or whatever it is, like there's nothing wrong with that. But I think if you really want to push yourself. I really, really think that theory is important. I feel like a lot of metal people can say like, oh, I never learned that, or I don't want it to ruin my creativity. I think that's the complete opposite of what
That's
would
a joke.
happen. It's just not true. And I hear Jim saying that sometimes. That's why I bring it up, and I'm like, I kind of,
He does know it. He just knows his version of it.
yeah, that's what I didn't realize until that one video. I'm like, what? He's like, he knows all of this stuff. He just
Yeah, he
isn't
does.
like saying it completely correctly.
Yeah,
So it is
exactly.
like, I'm like, but whatever. He's a rock star. Like he can do whatever he wants. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. It's like
Jim can do whatever he wants.
exactly. But like
Literally.
for normal guys like us, like I think unless you are a rock star, I think, and same thing with like, Van Halen or Hendrix or whatever. Like, of course, they don't need to know it, but like for us, I think I think it's important, and I'll die on that hill.
Definitely.
But yeah.
And I think that side of it is kind of what's given our channels a little bit more sort of credibility
Mhm.
because we're both thorough. We
Yeah.
try and get it as accurate as possible.
Yeah.
And, there's a sea of misinformation out there. And I'm not saying like I'm 100% right,
I also would like
all
to
the
say I'm
time.
not always 100% right too. I don't want people
Exactly.
I don't want people to think that, but we're trying as
Exactly.
hard
But
as we
we're
can.
trying as hard as we
Yeah.
can. And the only
Yeah.
reason is, number one, for me anyway, I can't speak for you here, but like,
Mhm.
for me, it's just like, number one, I learned my stuff. And I've still got ways to learn, by the way. So I haven't conquered it all by any stretch of
Mhm.
the imagination yet, but I learned my stuff. And then the second thing is like, I just spent an unhealthy amount of time obsessing over that one band. So like I
Yeah.
know what they do. Do you know what I mean? It's like all my
Yeah.
my hours as a kid, and then like even now, obviously, because it's part of what I do, but just spending time. And the Bullet for My Valentine thing for me, it was a band that I was just able to do.
Mhm.
I and I saw so many YouTube covers or whatever it was of people just playing it wrong, you know what I mean? Like, or just not what the band were doing. It might be right notes wise, but people would say, "Oh, like, how'd you play that certain thing?" Like certain things. Like the reason why I like that band is because a lot of the theory stuff that I was learning with scales and patterns and stuff like that
Mhm.
were manifested in Padge's lead playing.
Yeah.
So, a lot of those runs on the Scream Aim Fire album, they're just like literally a major scale run to the top of the neck.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like, oh, the guitar teacher's giving me this sheet. And it's like, I remember looking at how all like the modes connected.
Mhm.
And, he said it would be a good idea to learn them. So, okay, I'll do it. And I just took one a week. I just learned them. Just like Jim was showing in that video
Yeah.
when he's starting down in F and he's just playing his A minor, C Ionian modal positions.
Mhm.
Blah blah blah, the boring stuff. And I remember like learning literally her voice resides the guitar solo because the whole thing was to be able to do that 3 note per string thing. And I went, oh, well, hang on a
Mhm.
minute. And I looked back at the sheet. It's like, oh, that's how he's connecting them. And then I automatically knew where to go next.
Yeah.
So it was aiding me, and there was such application there. So the
Mhm.
reason why I went so heavy in on the Bullet of My Valentine thing is it's not actually that complicated.
Mhm.
There, a lot of the stuff is very sensical, if at all that is a word.
Yeah.
And I saw different versions of things. Like I don't know, the first solo in A Place Where You Belong. There's this little tapping run at the end of it, and I obsessed and obsessed and obsessed. And I thought to myself, Padge is very good, but he's not like stupidly technical. And all the versions
Yeah.
that I'd seen on YouTube of people doing that run, it was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't think I like I don't think it would even cross his mind to have come up with that. So I spent some
Sure.
time with it and I isolate the tracks, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, it's a lot simpler than people think.
Yeah.
So the big thing for me is like demystifying
Yep.
these songs for people. And it's
Absolutely.
like, it's more simple than you think. And
Mhm.
you can do it too. And hopefully
Yeah.
give people the confidence.
Yeah, for sure. What clicked for me is the same exact thing you're saying with Padge was the that last run in the Scream Aim Fire solo. It's just, if this is the thing that always annoys me with myself talking is like I was about to say E minor, but technically, if we're talking about like the concert pitch of it, it's D minor because they're a whole step down.
Yeah.
But like that run is literally just the sixth string and the first string, and it's just that run. And it's like as a 14-year-old, I'm like this is amazing. Like I know what
Yeah.
he's like. I can tell someone like, oh, he's just doing a D minor, whatever you want to call it. Just the straight up minor scale 3 note per string run. Same with like I covered Alone.
Mm-hmm.
That's like man, is that F sharp?
Yeah.
Locrian?
It modulates
I can't
out,
remember.
doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but I remember like learning that, and that was one of the first solos that I learned by ear because it was before Fever came out, but I think they played it live or something. I can't
Yeah.
remember. This was like April of 2011 or something like that. Like I can't remember when. I think that's when that record came out. Was that 2011 or 2010? Yeah, so it
Yeah.
would have been April of 2010. Anyway, good times, good times. But yeah, just his. I feel like he was. Kirk was like my guitar hero. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was like my
Mm-hmm.
dad and then Kirk Hammett. But the
Yeah.
problem with Kirk is like it's not as to me at least. I learned a bunch of his solos, but it wasn't as like it didn't connect the dots like Padge did because there's a lot of like
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
random stuff and
Yeah, exactly.
the wah. I mean, I'm not going to hate on the wah thing, but it just made it more difficult to pick out the notes because it's a lot
What's
of like
happening?
just
Yeah.
right, exactly. So to me, I was like, once I got to bullet, I was like, oh, like it kind of, I was able to pick up stuff more studying patches playing for sure.
Yeah.
And even to me, like I was saying earlier about Eye of the Storm, like that, I was like, what? Like I never understood what sweep picking was. And not that I'm saying that solo is easy, and sweep picking to me is a very difficult technique. But I was like, okay, well, it's just three notes, and oh, it's kind of like those open chords that I like a D minor, like that D shape, like
Right. Okay.
whatever. So it all connects, like you were saying. And I love that band so much. I'm so excited to see them. It's a crime, but I've never seen them. And like this will be the first time I'm seeing them. But I can't wait. I'm so excited. But yeah.
Just because we'll talk about that, but
Mhm.
just something that you hit on then. Like I suck at sweep picking. Like I will not hide that. I suck at lead guitar. Like when I'm doing that
Like
on the
so.
videos, I'm doing it out of like pure will and necessity. This isn't something that comes natural to me. Like I have to work at it. And whenever
Mhm.
a new Bullet song comes out, I'm listening to it. Obviously, I'm listening to it with a view to obviously breaking it down, covering it, and whatever. And I'm like that right with like please, 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 no squeaky points, please. Like, and it's just like okay, here comes the middle part. What's it gonna be? But I'm at the point now where I kind of know what to expect from Patch.
Yeah.
It's like an AC/DC record. I do
Mhm.
not like AC/DC, but I guarantee if I put an AC/DC song on, I what I'm expecting to hear is probably what I'm gonna hear.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like the idea of technique mixed with the theory, people go all in on the technique. It's just like I want to learn sweep picking, but I don't want to learn the theory. It's like okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you know those patterns from Eye of the Storm,
Mhm.
and how he's modulating through chords there, just split up,
Yeah.
yeah, you will actively know what you're looking to achieve, what you're looking for, rather than just this pattern.
Yeah.
You'll be like, I need this pattern because it will hook up with the chord that's being played on
Yeah.
the other
Exactly.
guitar. So
Yep.
therefore, it will give your pick more of a set, your picking hand and your fingers or whatever it is, a more sense of conviction because you're looking to lock in with that. I'm not sure if I'm making sense here, but if you understand the theory behind something, you're not just blindly playing a pattern and hoping for the best. You will actively know what you're looking for, and
Yeah.
that's just something that I wanted to touch on there and impart to others that you brought up. Yeah, so you want to do the bullet for my Valentine thing now, do you? Or
Let's do it.
okay, fire away.
Yeah, so I guess we can both talk about how we got into Blow since that's such an important band for us. But I think I
Yeah.
mentioned it earlier, but the first I heard of them, I'm gonna look it up now because that's gonna bug me. I think it was on the Madden 2005 soundtrack, which I know you're saying you're not into sports, but that is a American football video game. Um, was it? No, I
While you're
think it
doing
was
that,
the
I
same.
just want to clarify just how Adam and I met for the audience.
Yes.
So basically, I was watching your videos. And anytime I wanted to learn Slipknot song, I would obviously you were the go-to. And just sheer enjoyment of watching your videos in general, even if I wasn't learning the song, if I was just like putting strings on my guitar or something that needed background noise, I would just put one of your videos on, because it was just very enjoyable content for me. And then maybe I left a comment on your video or whatever, but I remember watching your stuff and I remember thinking to myself, like, this is kind of where I want to be. Because you're a little, kind of like however many subscribers ahead of me or whatever. I just remember thinking, that's my next goal.
Hmm.
I kind of want to be where this guy's at. And then lo and behold, like, I think a day later, you
Yeah.
turned up in my comment section as that Matt took PC Rich. And I was like, oh, hello, Mr. Blackacre Doe. And I remember
Yeah.
going to my partner at the time and I'm going, look, he's commented and I've been watching him all week. Kind of thing,
Yeah.
and then you said in the comment like maybe we should collab or something. And then, but I had no idea that you were a big Bullet for My Valentine fan.
Yeah.
So obviously when we started talking on Instagram and stuff like that, it was cool to, realize that we've got a lot in common, not just with guitar and approaches and stuff like that, but we've got like these big sort of main bands that are the same for us.
Absolutely, yeah. It's funny too. Sometimes you'll post stuff like just like way too specific to my life. Like you posted this meme that I was like crying laughing. It was like a combination of like Casino Royale and like Hungry Hungry Hippos. Like I can't remember if it was like it was like the sheep or something. And I was just like, yo, like why is this guy like
Well,
we had like this same like
it seems they're not
childhood or
as
something.
hungry as you thought, Mr. Bond, or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
I was like my favorite James Bond movie and book and Hungry
Yeah.
Hungry Hippos. I was like, this is insane. So it was just like a very like kinship type of thing of like we're,
Hmm.
halfway across the world from each other, but have a lot of those same
Yeah.
experiences to like a funny degree. But yeah, my first introduction to Bullet was Madden '06. So that came out in, 2005, I think. So many, many years ago. But it was Four Words to Choke Upon was on that soundtrack.
Hmm.
And at the time it was a little heavy for me. I'm like, damn, like this just
Yeah.
the intro, just the real evil guitar lead and this pick scrapes are just evil. Like I was like, I don't know, like obviously there's a lot of melody too, and that's why I was able to get into them because I'm like, okay, he has these harsh vocals, but he also has this beautiful singing voice.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction, and then I'm sure I got the Poison off of LimeWire or wherever. And yeah, I remember getting Streaming Fire when it came out. Streaming Fire, the song was on. I don't know if Guitar Hero was big for you as a kid, but like the video
It was in
game,
this
but
country, but yeah. Sorry, go on.
yeah,
Sorry.
no, you're good. Like Screaming Fire, the song was in one of the Guitar Heroes. So I'm like, oh man, like, they were just everywhere, I feel like. And at that time, like, it was weird. I feel like the only kid into Bullet in my school. And everyone was really into like, I don't know how it was over there, but I feel like it was more like the emo type of bands, like Under
Yeah.
Oath and
Hmm.
like Asking Alexandria. I actually don't know that much about Asking
Uh-huh.
Alexandria, but it was like the bands that like I hated, which like now I'm a grown adult. I can say I don't enjoy that band, but at the time I'm like, this band sucks, whatever. As you are as a kid, like I am
Hmm.
very passionate about music, but at the time I was like, no, this band sucks. Like I wear a Bullet shirt to school, and there was this kid who liked like, Alisana and stuff, and be like, man, Bullet sucks. Like Alisana sucks, whatever.
I
But
remember been there.
yeah, yeah. But like it was to me, it was just like that they were my band. Like I was like
Yeah.
Metallica was one thing, but Bullet
Yeah.
was like new and they were younger and like whatever. And I just yeah, that was my first introduction. Then Screaming Fire, and then I started learning their songs. I think around when Fear came out.
Hmm.
At
Hmm.
the time, I had a YouTube channel. It was before this channel, but and I would cover their stuff and just yeah, that was my introduction. And like I said, still haven't seen them unfortunately, but we're both gonna be seeing the same
Hmm.
same tour with
Yeah.
with Trivium. And I
Yeah.
was dying too because you posted earlier, I think it was earlier today or yesterday, that like you're like, oh, I guess I should listen to this Trivium record because I never have. I haven't either. Like that's the thing. It's like I feel like growing up, like there's different paths you take of like, oh,
Yeah,
like
it is.
in metalcore, it was like I
Yeah.
had friends who loved like Atreyu or
Yeah. Avenged.
yeah, Avenged Sevenfold. But to me,
Yeah.
like out of those big, I guess if you want to, I won't say big four because there's probably other bands I'm not thinking of at the moment. But like I feel like it was Avenged Sevenfold, Bullet,
Yeah.
Atreyu, Trivium. Like
Yeah.
you kind of, to me, it's like the
Classics.
Beatles or the Rolling Stones. Like I'm a big Beatles guy. I don't like the Rolling Stones. Like
Yeah,
just different
same,
paths you
same.
take. Yeah. So it's
Tell you what, if anything happens to me, I'm just gonna put this on record now. I'm gonna leave my login details so you can just carry my channel on
yeah,
because I don't think it's gonna be
I
any
got you.
different if I'm honest with you.
Yeah.
You guys will see
Yeah.
maybe a
Same
bit
goes
more
with me.
Slipknot, but it will be in
Yeah.
good hands, trust me, because
Yeah.
it's basically the same person.
Yeah, it's so funny. But yeah, that they were like and then I think once what was it, Temper Temper came out? Is that what
Hmm.
that wait,
Hmm.
is that what that was a record called Temper Temper?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Then I'm like, "Ugh, all right, like they lost me a little bit,
Hmm.
but I don't know. They will always be one of my favorite bands. And like to me, if you put out like two or three great records, like that's a good run in itself. Like those three
Yeah.
records to me are like flawless, the first three Bullet
Yeah.
records. And I
Hmm.
like other stuff here and there. Oh man, of course, the name of it's blanking on me right now. Weirdly enough, Gravity. During COVID, I really got into Gravity. Like, I don't know if you like that record or not.
Yeah, Gravity. I'm that guy who just likes everything they've pretty much done. But
Yeah,
mind you, I say that. I mean, there are some songs that fell flat for me, and I did a ranking video, like I ranked every Bullet song, and
yeah,
I full on knew what I was doing in that as well, because like, there's some songs that I put way down the bottom, and it's probably because I just hadn't been listening to them. But then I've been doing lessons on them recently. I'm like,
yeah.
no, what a really good song. I'm really looking forward to hearing them play 10 years today. That song should have been up,
Oh
but
man,
it was just a
yeah,
video, and people have said like, oh, how could you put 10 years today so low? It's like, mate, if I'd have put everything in God tier on that video,
yeah,
that would have made for a boring video. Do you know what I mean? And I say,
right,
ask me tomorrow, it'll probably be different. But like, I
yeah,
like, generally speaking, I like pretty much everything they've done.
yeah. How about you? How'd you get into them? Because are they like? This is gonna show my ignorance with geography, but are they from Wales or are they
Wales,
from?
yeah, that's where I'm
They are
from.
from
Yeah.
Wales.
So basically, I guess it was the Need for Speed thing, along
Oh
with
yeah, I
Blood of Other
forgot. Yeah, yeah,
People. Hand of Blood was like the first thing I heard, and
yeah.
again, the same thing with you. What we talked about at the beginning of this. The progression into heavier music. You know, we didn't start there. I
Mm,
remember hearing, Slipknot for the first time and thinking, whoa, no, 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 no. I was a
yeah.
Stone Sour fan way before. I was
Mm,
deep into Audio Secrecy and Come Whatever May, and all and the first record, like heavily into that way before Slipknot. So, if anything, I had to grow with the heaviness, and then obviously that all there was for me was Metallica, at
yeah.
that age. And then the next band that came along was Bullet for My Valentine, and again, it was the same thing. It was like, okay, this is heavier, but it's emotive. It's pulling on my heartstrings the same way wow, can't get my words out. Welcome Home Sanitarium did. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or or the riffs are just hitting me the same way as Black and did, or whatever it was. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
yeah.
And yeah, I just remember again doing the same thing, MP3s, on from school. But then there was somebody in sixth form, and I asked them to put both albums on my MP3 player for me.
Mm,
Screaming Fire and The Poison, they were the only two ones that were out at that point. I mean, I already had quite a few songs anyway, off of The Poison. There was just a few that I obviously couldn't get on those MP3 sites in school. So I rounded that off. And then Screaming Fire was like, that sounds a little bit like too produced.
oh,
I
okay.
remember like there's like sort of like this breakdown bridge section in the song Disappear down ticka ticka da da da. There's sort of
Mhm.
like this hey
Yeah.
hey chanting going on in the background. And I remember thinking, like that sounds a little bit too, but then it grew with it, and obviously I love that album.
Yeah.
But it was very different to The Poison in a lot of ways, but then grew to love it. And then Fever is my favorite Bullet record,
Mm,
purely because it was the first album that I was waiting on.
yep.
And being
Same.
in
Yeah.
sixth form, you had free lessons, so you'd go uptown and you could look in the Kerrang magazines. Obviously, you didn't buy them because you had no money at that point,
Yeah.
so you put them back on the shelf. But like, you had pictures of Matt Tuck on the front of Total Guitar and stuff with his White Jackson, and that's when I got my White Jackson was in that era as well. So,
Mm,
there was a lot of Bullet stuff going on for me at that point. And
yeah.
then when Fever dropped, I was already sold on the band as it was. But I was like, oh my God, like I'd never heard songwriting from them like that.
Yeah.
And I will always circle back to A Place Where You Belong, that clean riff in the
Yeah.
verse. I was and it had, like, Screaming Fire was good, but it didn't have like the touchy feely songs. It had every now and then like Say Goodnight and stuff like that, but those touchy
Yeah.
feely heartbreaky songs that an angsty teen needs to listen to.
Oh yeah.
It did.
Oh
It
yeah.
didn't have so
Fever.
much of that for me, but Fever, it
Yeah.
had Bittersweet Memories. It had A Place Where You Belong. It had Pretty on the Outside. It had that same Poison heartbreak thing going on with it.
Yeah. No, that's a
You
really good
know?
point. I never really thought about that. I feel like, yeah, Screaming Fire is a little more like, for lack of a better term, like for them, macho, I guess. Like
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. It does have I have them pulled up right now on my Apple Music, but um, like Forever and Always,
Yeah, huh,
um,
uh-huh. Hmm.
but not. I mean, and like you said, Say Goodnight, but not really. I mean, a lot of these are just like Screaming Fire's pretty, as far as they go,
It's
like very
intense.
thrashy. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, Waking the Demon,
definitely.
obviously, Hearts
Yeah.
Burst into Fire a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. I definitely had the heartstrings tugged a little more on the Poison
Hmm.
and Fever, especially even like the album art I really like from those
Yeah,
two
I love
more than
that.
Screaming Fire. It's just like
Hmm.
that's just my favorite shit. Like
Yeah.
still heavy but moody and like
Yeah, yeah.
kind of mysterious. I don't know. Like this isn't. I mean, I always get weird looks when I wear this out. People are like, what the hell is that? But
What's
it's
that?
just like iconic for me. I'm like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that was a big thing as a kid too. Of like every kid growing up has the thing of like you kind of listen with your eyes first sometimes where it's like, oh, that art's insane. Like what I hope that band's sick. And half the time they
Yeah.
are, half the time they're not. But in this case, I was like, yeah, that's for me.
Yeah. And as well, the speaking of like the visuals, the Bullet of My Valentine, talking about the progression into heavier music, they had what Metallica had. They had the pointy guitars.
Yeah,
They had the long hair. It was just like a very fresh version of that for me. Didn't
for
sound
sure.
anything like Metallica.
Mhm.
But guitar wise, that band progressed me further because they were utilizing the stuff that I'd learned from Metallica, but they just repackaged it, right? So it wasn't
Yeah,
like a foreign, guitar style for me. It was something that was like, oh, okay, they've done it this way, or they've gone more on the single notes or whatever it is. It was stuff that I was familiar with,
yeah,
But and the Image thing, it was a similar thing, Kirk has played Jackson guitars and
hmm
ESP guitars with Page and stuff like that. So it was all very much in the realm. So again, it was a natural progression into that band, and yeah, and then obviously the Matt Tuck thing, as far as like heroes go, I just wanted to be in when I was younger.
yeah,
I mean, after the Hatfield thing, and I don't know, there was just something about that band that lyrically, a lot of it resonated with me. Sonically, it resonated. It was just one of those special bands. And
absolutely.
when I do a band, I do a band as
Yeah,
well. You know what I mean? So I listen to everything. So people are like, "You listen to Both My Valentine again?" It's like, yeah, but
yeah, right.
I'm on the fourth album now, so just I'm really into this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
no, I'm the
and
same
and the
way.
thing is that people may not understand is, you know, if they're going like, "Oh, you listen to that same band and stuff," guys like you and I, it's like it's not just the music; it's the guitar side of it as well. So
Yeah.
we're connecting with it on a much deeper level. Not a deeper level than the average listener, obviously, but just maybe a different level because we're thinking about two things when we're listening to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's funny too. I don't know if you have the same experience, but like I feel like sometimes with me, it's like people will like be singing along that they know every lyric, and I'm like, damn, like I think I pay more attention to the guitar parts sometimes in the
Yeah.
lyrics of
Yeah.
like I'll be singing along. I'm like, there's times where like I'll probably learn some of these lyrics for the first time before I go to the show. Where I've been like, have I been saying this wrong for 20 years? You know what I mean? Like it's just something where I could tell you every
Yeah.
note, whatever. But it's just funny. Like sometimes I'd like to listen to that with someone else's ears. But yeah, for
Yeah.
me, like the guitar stuff is the most important. And yeah, Padge to me was like my guy. But I also didn't realize till later like that. I didn't know until I watched their live stuff that like Matt does some of the solos too. And does he
Yeah.
like record the solos? You probably know a lot more about their studio stuff
No,
than me, but
yeah, he does. Well, he does his solos, obviously, but no,
yeah.
Padge has always done his lead
Okay.
guitar solos.
Yeah.
Matt tracks like all the bass though, because it's like a right hand thing apparently, and I think he's just
Yeah.
likes to do it that way.
It was funny too, because like I have a distinct memory of being in like whatever 15 in school, and I had a teacher, and he's like, "Dude, I love like I was listening to this album. He's like, "Dude, I love Poison," and I'm like, "This is both my Valentine, dog." Like what? Like he was trying to be cool and like connect with me.
Yeah,
I'm like, bro, like
that's so funny, isn't it? Because it's
yeah,
like when I meet people, they they go like, oh, I suppose you like that heavy metal. What do you like? Is it the Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple?
yeah,
A little bit. Oh, Black Sabbath. Bit heavy. Oh, not that Metallica. Bit heavier again. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. It's tough to connect to people sometimes, especially like
you know.
I work in very like normie corporate America. And some like people ask me like, oh, do you guys like for Convent? They'll be like, oh, you play in a band? Like, what kind of music? I'm like, I don't even know if it's worth like explaining this to you. Like, I don't know. It's like I will literally say Metallica. I'm like, you don't enter Sandman? Like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
It's just tough
I've
to, yeah.
categorically not sent my band to certain people who've asked to listen to it because they,
Yeah.
oh, I like a bit of rock, I like a bit of AC/DC, and it's like, you'd be in for a big surprise.
Yeah, the only A in common is drop A. Like there's no AC/DC.
Yeah,
Like I don't know what to tell you, but there's
exactly.
no AC/DC in here. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny. It's a funny thing. It's like it makes it even that much more special to me because it's like, obviously we're talking about, well, it's a huge band. Metallica is a huge band. Slipknot's a huge band. But even so, like if you just go out in society, it's like it still feels like it's this thing between us. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah,
like it
totally.
is still a special thing to me. But yeah, it is kind of funny trying to. It's just a weird thing to try to explain to people. Same thing with like liking horror movies or whatever. People are like, "Ugh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you like Terrifier and like stuff like that." But it's all good.
Right. So I guess we've done the bullet thing. Can we talk about the Slipknot thing?
We can. I'll allow it. The thing that my whole channel is based on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So just as a little bit of a premise to this, obviously, that's a band that you've really majored on your channel and stuff like that. But you and I have
yeah,
both talked about sort of like the stigma that comes with doing a band and majoring on it and doing a lot of their content. Unfortunately, what does come with it is like, oh, you're the Slipknot guy, you're the Bullet guy,
yeah,
and that sometimes, as much as I'm capitalizing on that band and you've done the same and it's been good
sure.
for us, sometimes it's a little bit like, how do you break out of that? Because
Yeah,
you are a guitar player and Bullet is just one side of me, just like Slipknot is one side of you. I won't
yeah.
lie, you didn't really help yourself wearing a mask, but it did. But
Fair.
that's what gave you a USP, right? It's like,
Yeah.
when you search on Slipknot, when your thumbnails come up, it's like, I'm with the Jazz Master. It's like, of course I'm going to click on that guy. Do you know what I mean? Why
Yeah.
wouldn't I?
Right. Yeah. It's been an interesting ride because like I said earlier, like I never really thought my goal was like if I hit 1,000 subscribers, cool.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really have any expectation. And that's just how I've always been. Like I'm very like what's it called? Like routine oriented. I like having a goal. I like grinding. It's hard and it's the same thing with you. I mean, you do it way more than me because it's your livelihood, but like even me just doing one video a week, I'm like, all right, like I'm gonna do 52 videos this year at least. And it's tough with the band and with,
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing I want to make clear is that like I am a person, like I'm not just some guy in a mask, I'm not like a Slipknot jukebox. Like I listen, like I don't even
Yeah.
know the last time I listened to Slipknot like
Yeah.
a lot. Like I'm always trying to stay up on new music. I'm a big like pop guy. Like right now I'm big into like industrial metal. Like there's lots of stuff going on in my life other than Slipknot. I have,
Yeah.
a lovely girlfriend. We have a house. We have pets. I have my
Mhm.
career. Like the last thing I'm thinking about on like, a Tuesday at 5 p.m. is like, oh man, I wonder what hair tie Jim used in 2004. You know what I mean? It's just like I just want to. I'm not trying to be like an asshole, but like I just want people to know that like I have a life too, and I appreciate
Yeah.
all you guys for subscribing and watching. Like it means the world, but also like I got some things that are priorities before
Mm-hmm.
Slipknot.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it started because like I was saying, of that point five, uh, fret 12 DVD that Jim did. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I kind of want to pay it forward to like my, kid self and all these other kids. Try to have a little bit of a guiding person with the Slipknot stuff. Yeah, the mask thing really honestly came from I did a channel when I was a kid, and just from being creeped out from the internet, like that's why I did it anonymously at first. I
Mm-hmm.
would have done that regardless if it was Slipknot or not. But yes, I definitely pigeonholed myself by doing that. But it
Mm-hmm.
also kind of added a mystique to it because I think
Yeah.
kids now
Definitely.
like you can get everything. Everyone's accessible. You can DM anyone in the world
Yeah. Yeah.
and they want to know who you are. Even though I'm just a normal guy, I have a very small
Mm-hmm.
channel, like people were still
Yeah.
like, who is this guy? Like whatever. So it kind of added some mystery to it. And I
Yeah.
have my mask back there and like John Autumn is the guy who made this mask and I've been through a couple masks, but I finally found him, and I'm just a big fan of masks in horror movies and
Hmm. Hmm.
in general. So it was just kind of it made sense to me, but it is
Yeah.
something that obviously like people are going to be like, oh, he just does Slipknot, and um, like you said, breaking out. Like I really haven't tried to do that until really Convent started.
Yeah.
I actually did a series of interviews maybe 2 years ago or so with AJ Good from the House of Masks,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Mark Nosler, and XRC Xander Raymond Charles. He used to
Uh-huh.
go by
Uh-huh.
Stay Metal
Uh-huh.
Ray,
Yeah.
and part of why I wanted to do a series on them is because they all have done that. They've all been a pillar of the Slipknot fan community, but they all are successful on their own. And I
Yeah.
don't think it really
Yeah.
hit me until after I did the interviews that like, oh, they kind of all have that in common.
Yeah.
But and it's scary, but I have like really tried, and it's hard when like you post a Slipknot cover and it gets X amount thousands of views and comments, and then you post something from your own band, and it's like
Yeah. Two.
a fraction of that, right? So it
Yeah.
is hard, and it's like
Yeah.
kind of sticking your neck out there. But I think it's finally time for me to like really focus on Convent, and
Yeah.
I'll still do this stuff. But it's like you were telling me in one of our DM conversations how like you kind of view your channel as like a billboard, and I'm trying to use
Yeah.
that as my channel as a billboard for Convent. So yeah, it is something that I realize that I'm trying not to complain about it. I know that that's the reason
Hmm.
99% of people are subscribed to me is because of Slipknot, and I appreciate that. But I also want this to be kind of a launching board of like, hey, check out my
Yeah.
original stuff,
Everything
check out my
else.
other
Yeah.
covers and stuff. And it is funnily kind of I didn't want to combine the two things. Like when I stopped doing the mask in every single video, I'm like, oh man, like now I'm gonna get people from like work that might find my channel or like whatever. And like it that came full circle because a buddy of mine who's in one of my favorite local bands, we were at this show and he's like, dude, like I was looking up how to play Miss Murder and like there was a video of you in a mask. Like, what is that? I was like, oh shit. It's like the cat's out of the bag now. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
But it's been interesting. But like I said, I've had kids come out to Convent shows that know me from the channel. So it's a
Yeah. Yeah.
beautiful thing. I,
Exactly.
I appreciate
Exactly.
it. So it's like it is there. It's very small steps, and I'm trying to gain one person at a time. Just like please check out my band. Like I
Yeah.
swear, every comment now I'm just gonna be like, if you like heavy riffs,
If you
check out
like
my band.
this, yeah,
If you
yeah,
like drop
yeah.
A, I'm just like I'm sorry, but it's just I'm gonna do it.
There were certain YouTubers that I was watching, and they'd put all like this copyright content out, just like reaction to this, that, and the other. And
Yeah,
I'm thinking to myself, like, what? People who have a career doing it, and I'm thinking, like, how are you getting away with that? But then it clicked
yeah,
with me, like, YouTube is literally the middleman to get you. It's a billboard, it's a marketing tool to get
yeah,
people to your band, your lessons, your merch, whatever it is. I mean, look at the guys like All Over England and stuff like that with
yeah,
solo guitars. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's purely so that you can, you know, share your art form. My
Mhm.
thing at the minute happens to be mostly the lessons and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I've had some people come on board, and I got quite a bit of backlash when I made my lessons Patreon exclusive. But it's like,
Mhm.
it's like, well, hold on, my job. This is my job. Why am I? And people go, oh, you'll get money from ad revenue, and it's like, yeah, right. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
that, and everybody who was doing it well, you know, they have that sort of medium going on, and they're using the YouTube thing as a marketing tool. I mean, look at Ben Aller. Do you know
yeah,
what I mean? He's the king of it. Do you know what I mean? He
yep,
has a Patreon page, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? It's just like, and you get people saying like, oh, that you're just using it to plug this, that, and the other. It's like, why wouldn't I? And if
yeah,
you want to come along for the ride, then great. And if not, then okay, see ya. You
yeah,
know.
exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, why wouldn't you with Convent? And I wanted to talk about Convent. I mean, what can you tell us? What is Convent?
Yeah, so basically convents I'd say it's like kind of my brainchild as far as musically. I'm not saying that as like everyone in the band has their own strengths and their own part to play in it, which makes it awesome. But the way Convent works is basically to start off, it's a heavy band. I don't know if you want to call us like a hardcore band or a metal band. I don't really know where we fit in. There's a lot of I was really inspired by like sludgy stuff for this first batch of songs that we're putting out. I was also really inspired by Swedish death metal, I use a pedal that has kind of that HM2 like chainsaw sound on it. I really love industrial metal, so it has some of that like kind of trebly, bitey type of thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's a lot of different influences, metalcore stuff.
Yeah.
I try to blend all that together and hopefully make it a little catchy. There's some melody in there and stuff. But yeah, started last year. Just some buddies of mine that have been active in our local scene for 10 plus years now, and I'd always wanted to do a band with Chris, our vocalist. Just never worked out, and then we're just like, let's jam together, and here we are. But yeah, it's I don't know, it's really fun. I write all the guitar parts, and I program the drums and the bass and the synths in here,
Hmm.
and then I'll send it to the guys, and if they like it, we'll go ahead. If not, we'll scrap it. And then
Hmm.
our drummer Ty is like my right hand man with structuring, and then he'll write his drum parts. I'll tell him, I'll program what I have in mind for the drums, and then he'll, tweak it from there. And
Hmm.
then we bring it to our producers, and then we usually come up with new stuff. Like Dirt Doesn't Need Luck is completely different from where it started. So I don't want to say I do
Such is
everything,
the
but
way.
such is the
Such is the
way.
way,
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, it's just, metallic, hardcore, metalcore, whatever you want to call it, industrial influence type band that, is kind of just like what I've always wanted to do with bands, but I just always grew up. I was always just kind of like, oh, Adam, like just, I know this guy, he can do guitar for you guys. I was always kind of just like an extra guitar player, like the lead guitar player, like, oh, we need leads
mhm.
on this, whatever. And I would just join and write parts and then join the band, where this is like actually like my project, I'd say. Like I kind of take up most of the mental load of the band, of like the, social media and reaching out for booking and all that stuff. And all those guys
Mhm.
are great help too. They've all been in the scene for many, many years. So I'm not saying I do everything, but I feel like I just wanted to make it a band where it's like, just show up to practice, like let's record and play shows. And I try to make it easy for everyone to just like show up, know your parts, and we'll do stuff. Because they're all
Yeah.
in a million bands. And our vocalist, he is also a touring guitar tech. So like, as you know, we're, all of us in the band are in our late 20s, early 30s and have a million commitments. So, but we want to do it right. So we're, trying to play a couple shows a month,
Mhm.
release stuff every couple months, song wise, and just doing the thing, playing local shows and hopefully doing some weekenders in different states and stuff. But yeah, it's just a heavy band that I try to put some catchy stuff in, and very moody and dark. And our vocalist he writes all the lyrics, and we're big like survival horror guys, so it's very influenced by that. And yeah, it's just fun at the end of the day. But that's a very long-winded way of explaining the band, but that's what Convent is.
No, no. Please, I mean, be long-winded. It's convent, and I mean this. I mean, sometimes you've got friends and stuff, and they put out music, and you go, yeah, yeah, that's great, kind of thing. But
Yeah,
you're not adding it to your playlist. Do you know what I mean? You're just supporting
yeah.
them. But like convent was, obviously it was something I was watching out for. And when the first single came out, Dirt Doesn't Need Luck, the title alone, I was like, what's that mean?
Yeah.
And I had no idea what to expect. And it had, it's so cliche to say, but it had so much of everything in there. It had that sort of like hardcore edge, but then it had third
Mm.
harmonies in there, which was a very like metalcore
Yeah.
thing. And,
Hmm.
and it was honestly, it was a breath of fresh air for me because I
Thank you.
get
Yeah.
bored of, I know we've talked about like, music is magic and, it's
Hmm.
our lives and stuff like that. But sometimes I get bored of it. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like hearing the same thing, there's only so many times I can hear a PV6505 with a tube screamer in the front, you know what I mean? With
Sure.
Fishbone fluent tops. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And it was just so refreshing um to hear something that was just different.
Yeah.
And obviously, for me, a vocalist will turn me on or off a band.
Yeah.
And the vocals were absolutely like broke me in like
Yeah.
instantly.
Yeah. He's
So
killer. Yeah.
you did good putting that together.
Thank you.
You
Thank you.
did really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Chris is a good guy. He's also a great guitar player. I'll shout out his other bands. He plays guitar in a band called Amora, and he plays guitar in a band called Studweiser. And we've been friends for many, many years. He's, I mean, we've been friends since I was 18 or 19. And that's another thing people probably don't realize is I grew up playing in like my first band was metalcore, or I should say my first band, the one when I was a little kid. We were like a pop rock band, and then I was in a metalcore band. But then in my late teens, early 20s, I played in pop punk and emo bands. That was just kind of like the scene around here. So I never really gotten to do like exactly what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea he screamed like that. And like
Mm-hmm.
when we started rehearsing, I was like, oh, this is like kind of unique because his vocals are like a little high, but not as high as your favorite Brian from Knocked Loose. You love them so much. Um, I saw the stories the other day.
Yeah, oh, I love
But
that's a different conversation.
yeah. But yeah, I feel like that's something we get a lot of good feedback on is like even my girlfriend was like his voice just is like nice. Like when he screams, it's like I don't know how to describe it. It just sounds really nice. And we tune pretty
Yeah.
low. Like we use B standard and like we were talking drop A. So just basically
Mm-hmm.
dropping the sixth
Yeah.
string for those following along at home. Those are our two tunings. And like to me, the higher pitch vocals with the low tunings, I feel like everything sits pretty well together.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, and I mean, it just all came together really well. Like Drew, our bass player, helps with like the art and stuff. Like he'll put on like our logo and make it cohesive. Like the second song, Where Her Heart Was, like he added this like the background to it, and like he'll just make everything cohesive with our merch and stuff, which makes it a lot easier on me because I usually will pick the designs, but I don't know how to do that stuff in Photoshop that he does.
Mm-hmm.
So like literally everyone has like, you know, their thing where it's like together, it makes things so much easier for me. I just have to, you know, pack up the merch and pack up my gear. And now I'm using a quad Cortex. So it's like we travel really light with stuff
Yeah.
now. And
It's the way to
like I
go.
said, everyone's on the same page now with like we practice X amount of times a month and then we, you know, play shows. So it's been really, really fun. But yeah, he's awesome, Chris, our vocalist. And like I said, writing the lyrics is huge because that takes, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of pressure off me. And I like the way his cadence is with the words. And funnily enough, so Dirt Doesn't Need Luck is actually from Futurama, the show.
Okay.
Um, so it's like this line that he heard. I think he was watching it with his girlfriend. He's like, "That's the hardest shit I've ever heard. Like, I want to use that as a song name." And he was like, I think he was kind of afraid to tell us that like he just threw in a bunch of names, and we were all like, "Dirt Doesn't Need Luck" is the coolest. And then I was talking to him on the phone a couple days later, and I'm like, I know that's from Futurama, right? And he's like, oh, I didn't know. But the funny thing is, I sampled that. Like, I got the clip of that character saying that, and we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
put it. We use backtracks now, like with all the like. There's like a
Yeah, yeah.
lot of extra
Mm-hmm.
layers on the song
Yeah.
that like you wouldn't
Same.
necessarily know, but there's um like industrial like stuff going on in the background. So we have that live. So I'm gonna put that in the backtrack, like before we play, like him saying that, just because
Nice.
I thought it was funny. But yeah, that was that I thought it was kind of fun because we're all like we're serious about the music, but like we're all goobers. Like I think it's funny to like put extra stuff in there like that from a cartoon.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh yeah, we're like in drop B and playing nasty stuff, but it's like it's all fun at the end of the
Yeah.
day. But yeah, I
Totally.
appreciate I spent a lot of time on the sidelines of like looking at bands and I took everything that I like and what I didn't like and try to make it into this band because there's a lot of stuff too. Just we were talking about like the way we carry ourselves. I feel like hardcore, there's a lot of clicks and kind of corniness of like, crowd killing and stuff like that.
Dancing,
Just you love
two-stepping.
it, the two stepping. Yeah, yeah. But I love two stepping. Jazz is not like two stepping, but that's a whole other conversation. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of like posturing and like, oh, we're cooler than you. Like, we're
Yeah.
not like that at all. We're nice. Like, we just like playing music and we like open-minded people. And that was something that I like. Sometimes I don't use the term hardcore just because I'm like, I don't want people to associate us with like that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm just trying to navigate it. Like, I don't really want to pigeonhole ourselves into playing just hardcore shows or just metalcore shows. Like we're playing a couple of shows coming up with like pop punk bands. Like I just want kids because I was so closed minded when I was growing up. All I listened to was metal until I was like 16. My buddy showed me Paramore, and then I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I like other music. Who is this woman?
Yeah,
Like,
I know, right?
yeah. So like I want to be able to kind of like have these kids skip over that phase and just like be like, oh, I like this stuff, but I also like pop punk, and we can all be at the same show and have fun. Where it's not just like five bands that are playing the same breakdowns. You know what I mean? So
The nice thing to hear for you is it sounds like you've got a bunch of guys there who are all on the same page, who
mhm.
all know what's expected of one another, and
Yeah.
that's the nice thing because it's one less headache for you. It's like,
Yeah.
here's what we all expect from one another. We can all just meet here, then everything's going to be good. And it's nice
Yeah.
that you sound, well, it's nice to hear, and it sounds like you've kind of reached that sort of place with everybody where it's like we all know
Yeah.
what's expected, and this is what we're going to do to make it work.
Yeah, exactly. I
Because
think it's
band
something.
members is difficult.
It is very difficult. If anyone listening to this, if you haven't played in a band yet, it is like being in, three or four other relationships at the same time.
Yeah,
It's really difficult. And in this band, I try to like I've never been a band leader before, so I kind of try to take that role on this where like we have the group chat will be like, hey guys, we got to figure out like the practices we're gonna do this month, and then I'll if I get a show offer, I'll be like, yo, can we do this show this time and stuff. And yeah, at the beginning, I was a little more timid and I wouldn't like kind of voice my, concerns or whatever. But we kind of had like a band meeting recently. And like, again, just like what you're saying, like, I just want to make sure, hey, this is what we're going to do. If you want to do it, let's do it. If not, no hard feelings. And everyone was
yeah,
like, yeah, let's do it. So yeah, it feels good to be on the same page for sure. And that's something, if you're out there, definitely communicate because that's when things get hairy is like if
yeah,
you're not
yeah,
talking to each other or whatever. And you don't have to be best friends. I am friends with all the guys in my band. It's probably the first time that's ever been that way. There's always been at least one person where I like didn't really like, but
yeah.
we played well together and that is what it
Hmm.
is. But you don't have
Hmm.
to love each other, but like it makes it
Yeah,
a lot easier when you are, at least like cordial with each other because that just
yeah,
is gonna go south in one way or another. Yeah, it's tough. I think it's something that not everyone just sees the single releasing and the shows being played, but
yeah,
yeah, there's so much that happens behind the scenes. It's like that's what it's really like on a day to day of like you said, like, okay, are we all free on the third of this month? And
hmm, yeah,
lining up
yeah,
people's schedule is really hard, and especially with guys playing in other bands. It's a lot, but that makes it all the more rewarding because like I am thankful for the guys in the band and like I wouldn't want some random people I'm auditioning on like whatever Craigslist or whatever. I don't know if you guys have Craigslist, but
I know what
like
Craigslist is.
okay.
Yeah,
So it's like I'd rather not go that route or like just random people because sometimes you can get a too many cooks in the kitchen type thing. I think I try
yep,
to keep everything with
definitely.
Convent pretty streamlined. I just want it to be like a plug and play thing. And obviously, like I keep saying, everyone has their part. I'm not saying I do everything, but I just want it to be to a point where everything's efficient and it
Yeah,
can get really hairy if you're like trying to collaborate too much on things. Because then if you do that, then sometimes if there's too many ideas, sometimes nothing happens. I'd rather be like,
yeah,
all right, like here's the thing, and then we can change it if we want. But just it's really hard to keep momentum rolling for sure. And I'm hoping we can keep. I like our schedule of like we release the first song, and then the second song came out like 3 months later, and we're recording vocals for the next two songs on Tuesday. So we'll probably slate them for like another 3 months. And I have like 9 songs written so far. So like if we just keep doing that every couple months, like that's just weird the way I feel like it's never been a worse or better time to be in a band because it's like there's so many
yeah,
bands out there, but it's
yeah,
also like it's never been easier to release music. You can self-release music. Like with
yeah,
us, we have our channel to like be like, here's my music. Merch is easy. You send off a PNG file and you have it
yeah,
created
yeah.
within
It's
like whatever
yeah, uh-huh.
it's all really at your fingertips, but it's also like there's bands starting every day and it's like kind of, fighting all the noise out there. But yeah, if you want to do it, definitely do it. Especially these days, like I don't know what the climate is like for the younger kids, but I feel like everyone sees like cover stuff is like so big just on the internet. Like you could never leave your room and like have an endorsement, which is like insane. Like when
Yeah.
we were kids, that was not a thing.
No,
Like
absolutely
you
not.
had to be playing shows, you had to be
Yeah,
touring. Like people wouldn't
yeah,
even look your way unless you were touring like a
yeah,
lot. And now
yeah,
like I got to a point where I was like, I'm seeing people with like, signature pickups that, have, I'm not hating, like that's sick. Like, but I'm like, well, if they can do it, it was almost like if you can't beat them, join them type of thing. It's
yeah, yeah,
not,
yeah. I get
I'm
it.
just like, you
Yeah,
know what? Let me just give it a shot and start contacting companies because it's like if that's the way it is now, that's the way it is. Like I'm not gonna be a boomer and be like, oh well, when I was a kid, you had to be doing this. It's like let's have fun and like cash in on it if you can.
yeah,
But yeah, I think that also makes the live thing more special because personally it's another boomer thing, but I feel like a musician, like you should be able to perform live too. It's just another part
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
like
Absolutely.
recording, playing
Agreed.
live, like playing to a click track, like whether you're on stage or in the studio, I think that's a big thing of like we were talking about learning with your ear. I think playing like in time is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Um, but it all goes in. I had a band leader, like the band director. I played percussion in concert band in my school because I didn't know they didn't have a guitar player. I showed up for the first day. I'm like, "Where's the guitar?" And they're like, "This is concert band. Like we have like trumpets and shit. Like what are you doing?" They're like, "Go back with the percussion kids. They'll teach you how to play snare drum and timpani and stuff." And
Yeah.
but my our band leader would always be like kind of harsh, but like I learned a lot from him, and he would always say, "There's instrument players and there's musicians. Like which one do you want to be?" Type of thing. So I've always
Yeah.
tried to be the musician part of it,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
after my dirt, that's how I prefer to be remembered.
yeah,
Not a great
exactly,
guitar player, but a great musician. You know what
yeah.
I mean? And if you learn guitar, coming back around to like learning guitar and stuff like that, if you learn guitar properly and you learn your theory, you
Mhm.
can take that into so much, other stuff. I tell my clients all the time, it's like you once I show you this principle, you can go away and take that onto piano, onto trumpet,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
whatever it is you want to do. And it's so useful. Like if you're wanting to make, heavy music even, but like put instrumentation on there that isn't guitar.
yeah,
I mean, if you learn your triads and chord construction and all that sort of stuff, you can program it in and know exactly the notes that you're looking for. So you become
exactly.
a multi instrumentalist that way. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. That's the way I do it too with like the Convent stuff. There's a more industrial element of it in these new songs I'm
Hmm.
writing. So like I'm just at the piano roll. If you don't know the notes on the piano, like you're gonna be lost. So I think
Yeah.
that comes back to what we were saying with theory and stuff. Like, sure, you can literally sit there and be like, oh, does this note come in? But it would take so long to do that, just like one note at a time. Like,
Yeah.
does this go?
Yeah.
Does this go? Does this go? So yeah, I think our point is that you should learn theory. Don't be afraid of
Yeah.
theory.
And that's the overarching thing of this
Yeah.
this is why I wanted to have you on, and this is why um because it was to really not to reinforce me and go, see, I was right. But no, I wanted, I want everybody to who don't know who you are,
Mhm.
to have, who perhaps like, people who like my content,
Yeah.
you know, get to hear from somebody who's on a very sort of similar page to me and has
Yeah.
done it pretty much the same way that I have and
Yep.
continues to do so.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that our way is, the best or whatever, but it
Mhm.
certainly helped us out in terms of learning music, learning to create,
Yeah.
learning to play the songs that we want to play, but also be able to get the point across and the message on our instrument, because that's it at the end of the day. I remember those old, Jim Root, not to bring it back around to Slipknot, but he's such a pivotal guitar player for me.
Yeah.
When Zach Wild hit my life and Alexi Leho, because like I liked Metallica and For My Valentine, I liked Padge's lead playing. Not so much. I love Kirk's playing and stuff, but it's nothing that made me want to sit and grind to get
Yeah.
down. But like when Zach Wild hit, I was like, that that's what lead guitar is.
Mhm.
And I grinded and grinded and grinded. And I was like, I'm just not built to play this way. I get it, but I'm not at that speed and velocity, right?
Yeah.
Then when Jim hit, I was like, that sounds doable.
Yeah.
Like
Which is
that's
funny
that's
because
what I'm
it
looking
also
for.
sounds insane to most people to be like, what
Yeah,
the hell is
I
that?
know.
Yeah. But I'm
But
with you
it's
too. It's
sorry, I'm
more.
cutting across, but go
No, no, you're good.
ahead.
Like I just wanted to say like I'm the same way because I'm like I love Paul Gilbert and John Five and these guys that their alternate picking
Yeah,
is just otherworldly. And I
yeah,
like being able to do that with runs, but like I just accepted that like I like combining legato with the picking. So to me,
yeah,
I had the same thing where like Zach Wild, he can pick everything in his pentatonic. It's just like insane. It didn't um resonate with me as much as Jim's does, where I'm like, oh, I can do that. Like it's
Yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
fast, but like I can do the picking thing and the legato thing. It's like it's not cheating. I don't want to say that, but it's also like kind of taking your strengths and melding them together rather than being like, oh, I'm going to pick every single note and it's going to be this really percussive like
Yeah.
type of thing. But yeah, he just to uh, agree with you, I felt the same way.
Yeah, coming back round to when I said like I was a Stone Sour fan way before I was into Slipknot, and it was Jim's
Mhm.
writing that I was enjoying so much, which is why when he left, I kind of stopped listening. But
Mhm.
just his the melody within, and the choice of the neck pickup, which always resonated with me as well.
Yeah.
Just the tone, the approach, and okay, so some of those fast runs and stuff I might not be able to quite get the same or whatever, but like
Mhm.
the message within the lead playing, the way it comes across, the blend of the fast runs with na 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 na,
Right.
like
Yeah.
he's got his
You can
tropes, he's
sing
got
it.
his things that he always
Mhm.
uses. I did a reel
Yeah.
ages ago, like had solo like Jim, and it
Mhm.
was basically step one, step two, step three, and you've got a Jim solo.
Yeah.
Not that I'm perfectly close, but like, there's like 4 or 5 things that he does, which is why, we all know he does not like the And So Far record, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he does not dig it. And if you listen to the solos on that album, it's manifested because it's the same formula.
Yeah.
It's the fast run followed by octave chords. Do you know what
Mhm.
I mean? And
Yeah.
or a single note thing and drone notes. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Provided you can get them in the key.
Right.
And it's like you can tell. But however, like that style of guitar was just like, for me, it was like that sounds like something I could lean into a little bit more, and that's what was coming natural to me.
Mhm.
That style of playing, and going back to the idea of being able to convey your message across, the kind of music that you want to put out there when you pick up the guitar.
Mhm.
That approach was coming out of me naturally through improvisation, more so than trying to alternate pick my way through a pentatonic run like Zach,
Right.
or even just like doing 1 2 3 1 2 3 patterns like Page and stuff like
That's
that.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's when I improvise and I play, I don't sound anything like Bolt of My Valentine or Patch.
Yeah.
you know. But it was that when I discovered his style of guitar playing, Gems, it was like, that helped me to find my little kind of niche for playing for me.
Yeah.
So that's just a little bit of Jim Root appreciation there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I wanted to just ask you, just sort of wrapping up here.
Mhm.
What do you like to all those watching? This is that
Mhm.
part. Like what, like tell them. Do you know what I mean? What do you want to tell the world? For those people who have made it this far, and we appreciate you. Thank you so much. What advice do you have? What should people be looking for? Now's your chance to plug. Go for it.
Oh man. So first off, yeah, thank you, Jazz, for having me. It's been awesome chatting with you, and it just feels like an extension of, our DMs and everything. So it's been awesome
Hmm.
to meet you and
Yeah.
chat with you. And I appreciate the platform to allow me to speak to your fans, and hopefully there will be some crossover with, my subscribers subscribe to you as well.
Thank you,
But
man.
yeah, I mean, if you're not subscribed to me and you like, Slipknot, and I do some other stuff in there. Sometimes I'm trying to do more new metal stuff, and also I do some punk stuff sometimes. It has some Green Day, some AFI, Mastodon. I love. I've done some lessons on them. So if you like
Yes.
heavy guitar playing with an emphasis on like getting them note for note the way that the artists play them, I recommend checking my channel out the same way that Jazz does. We have a couple collabs together, so definitely check those
Dope.
out. Yeah, my band's Convent. You can follow us at Instagram at Convent Band PA. We have 2 singles out, and we have some more stuff in the works, so keep an eye out. We're doing a giveaway right now, so if you want to win a free shirt and a pedal, head over to our Instagram. Yeah, if I could say anything, I guess kind of what I said earlier, but to everyone who reaches out and is wondering about lessons and stuff, like I recommend, I'm flattered that you want to, reach out to me, but I think sitting down with someone and getting lessons one on one is like just the best thing you can do. So if there's, teachers in your area, now you have Zoom too, and the virtual stuff, and that's great too. But if you find someone, if it is online or in person, that really resonates with you and understands your goals with guitar, that's my biggest kind of advice is like just get a teacher that understands you. Could be jazz. Um, Plug in his business there, but I really think you need someone. It doesn't. You should edit out the part where I say in person because that's not a thing anymore. Like when I was a kid, that was in person. I don't want to take away from
No,
your
it's
business.
fine. Don't worry. That's good.
So yeah, my biggest piece of advice would be get a guitar teacher who understands your goals and has your best interest in mind. Don't just go to someone who's going to teach you Smoke on the Water because they liked it in the 70s or something. Like you really need someone who understands your music taste and stuff.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I also say like if you want to start a YouTube channel, go for it. Like
Yeah.
don't worry about if other people have covered this stuff. Find your niche and have fun with it and just keep grinding and the subscribers will come. I'm a testament. I've been doing this for over 5 years now. It's very, very slow, but like if you keep putting stuff out, you'll get there. Me and Jazz both have had over 1 million views on our videos, which I never thought that was like a landmark that I'd hit. So if you really mean it, like stuff will happen. Be nice to people. I mean, be respectful and I don't know, just be a good person
Yeah.
and I think good things will happen. So that's very
Yeah.
boring advice, but that's what I
No,
got.
no, no. You hit the nail on the head. You get back what you put out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's magnetism. You know what
Yes.
I mean? What you put out there is just 100% what you will get back. You
Yeah.
know?
And I'm not perfect either. I clap back at some comments sometimes, but
Oh,
you
well,
know.
sometimes they ask for it.
Yeah, absolutely. You got tabs for
Um,
that?
tabs.
Tabs.
What string gauge do you use? That's
Yeah.
oh.
Every
No, no,
day,
no.
every day.
I don't mind. No, no, no. I redact that. I don't mind asking me what strings I use. What I do mind is what strings I think you should use.
Yes,
Nobody
that's
is.
a tough one.
The only reason why I know what strings I like is because I went through that horrible process of buying loads of different types and finding it.
Yeah.
Through custom sets, for drop A tuning, I have to buy like a 60 pack and then throw a 70 on the bottom. It's like buying 2 packs of
Yeah.
strings.
Yeah. Pain in the ass.
So like the other thing as well is, as readily available as information is, like do some digging yourself and you'll be richer for it,
Yeah.
I've been there with buying, those recommended packs, going into the shops as kids, on break in sixth form. It's just like, I want to tune to drop C. What should I use? Oh, well, here's a pack of 11s. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but the bottom's like a 46 or something, or like, that doesn't make any sense. And I can't band the
Yeah.
11 because it's too tight. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right. Yeah.
so like,
You gotta
go
find
through
those for
your
yourself.
process. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go through your process. And yeah, obviously ask by all means, like, what gear are you using? Absolutely, we're not these two ogres who hate people leaving comments,
No,
you know what I
no.
mean? But it's like,
Yeah.
ask away, but like at the same time as that, we have literally done it in an age where information was not so readily available, and the only way to go and try something was to, go to the shop and just buy it and get it back and see if you've made a horrendous mistake,
Yeah.
or if it's something that works for you, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, this has been lots of fun. Yeah, to everybody who's watched and made it this far in, thank you so much. And yeah, go check Adam's band out, Convent. Obviously, go and check his YouTube channel out if you like the same approach I have to teach him, basically, but you want to learn some Slipknot stuff. But it's not just Slipknot. There's other stuff on there as well. He's got like Limp Bizkit covers as well, which is cool. So
Sir.
yeah, I hope you guys have had a good time. Adam, I hope you've had a good time as well. And,
Absolutely. Yes. We'll chat soon.
absolutely. And a huge
Yeah.
thank you to everybody for listening. So take
Cool.
care, man.
Thanks, guys. Peace.
See you guys.